Hello and good day to you all. My name is DanShamLands, and instead of doing a gaming video, because I can't, because my mouse is broken, rendering my desktop completely useless, I decided I would do something a little bit different. And because I am, or traditionally I have been a very big fan of Pokemon, I've decided to put together a list of 10 Pokemon theories and trivia and all that I just find really interesting. So this isn't scripted at all. I've just got a list of 10 things that I put together, and I'm just going to talk about them. So, number 10. This has to do with an episode of the anime called Electric Soldier Porygon. This is an incredibly infamous episode of Pokemon, because it sent over 700 people to the hospital due to epileptic seizures. There's a scene in it where a rocket is launched at some incoming laser beam or whatnot. I actually can't remember what exactly it is, but it happens, and right as the rocket explodes, there's this just incredible flash of shades of red and blue, rapidly switching off red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. I mean, when you watch it at full speed, it hurts to watch it. It's annoying, but it was enough to send 700 people to the hospital. That episode was never aired in the US for obvious reasons. And on that note, we move to number 9, which is that critical hits used to be determined by base speed rather than just pure chance. Now, I believe critical hits are based purely on chance, but in Generation 1 games, so that is Red, Blue, and Yellow, it was all determined by the base speed of a Pokemon. So if you were fighting with a Snorlax, you would probably almost never get a critical hit, whereas if you're fighting with a Persian or probably an Electrode, there would be a much better chance that you'd get a critical hit. And this was made worse, especially with Persian. Persian is known for being just a monster with critical hits in the Generation 1 games, because not only was it lightning fast, it also knew Slash. I mean, it's a grown cat. Of course it's going to know Slash. And Slash already has a high critical hit ratio. So put the two together, and when all of the game's equations are done, Persian has a 99.6% chance of landing a critical hit when using Slash. 99.6. That means literally 255 out of 256 times Slash will be a critical hit. That makes it incredibly hard, especially when battling Giovanni, whose signature Pokemon is a Persian. It can just drive through whole teams. It's unbelievable. So, moving on to number 3. Haven't you always wanted to have a Mew in one of your games without cheating? Well, now you can. In Generation 1 games, through a very weird glitch, you're able to find a Mew. If you head east of Saffron City, there should be a gambler who wants to battle you. And if you go just barely out of his line of sight, so that he's just barely, like one step from being in the screen, and you step down and immediately press the start button, he'll see you, but your start menu will also pop up, and he'll sort of be frozen. He'll see you, but he won't move toward you. So, what you do after that, fly to Cerulean City, and then walk up, go past the Nugget Bridge, and then fight a very specific youngster. I don't know which one, but a very specific youngster. Defeat him, go back to Lavender Town, head west, back to that same route where the gambler was. And when you get to that route, the start menu will pop up again without you even pressing the start button. And once you press the B button to get out of the start menu, you will suddenly be thrust into a battle with a level 7 Mew. Now, that might sound like it might just sound fake, honestly. There are lots of videos showing people doing, and if you go here and press A 47 times in this exact square, then you fly to blah blah blah, and you do this, you walk around this person 8 times, but the 6th time you do it, you have to be sure to pause before you go all the way around, like all that stuff. All those things are fake, but this one I can assure you is a real glitch. I've done it myself before. It was very awesome. Had my own Mew. It was very cool. So yeah, moving on to number 4. Now we're getting into the fun stuff here. Pokemon theories. So this is not anything that is set in stone. This is simply a fan theory, but it's very, very interesting. I like it. And it is that Cubone is really just a baby Kangaskhan. Now, you might be thinking, what the heck are you talking about? Cubone it evolves into Marowak. What? You don't make no sense, that, honey. And to that, I say, well, hold on a second. Let me explain myself. So, this whole theory stems from the whole missing no glitch. And if you don't know about the missing no glitch, essentially it's just this big blob. It's a glitch Pokemon, really. If you don't know much about it, just look it up. It'll take like 2 seconds. One interesting thing about that missing no Pokemon is that when you level it up, it evolves into a Kangaskhan, which is very interesting. So the fan theory goes that Game Freak originally intended for Kangaskhan to be the final evolution of Cubone, but they didn't end up fully implementing it for whatever reason, even though there is code for it in the game. Apparently there's code for it in the game, according to the theory. So, instead of implementing that code, they simply moved that code into, they sort of pushed it away into this Pokemon called Missing No. And that is really sort of the Cubone baby Kangaskhan thing. And for more proof, I guess, it can't really say more proof because this is absolute total speculation so far. But there is, I'll show you this picture right there. This, I mean, a baby Kangaskhan does look an awful lot like a Cubone. And so, as you can see, a Cubone putting on the mask of its dead mother, which is incredibly morbid, would turn it into a Marowak, whereas this says leveling up through happiness. I mean, you could level it up through any other way other than putting the skull of its dead mother on its head, and it'll turn into a Kangaskhan, which it's a very interesting theory. Unfortunately, it's absolutely false, just because of how, I mean, like, we know why Missing No is really in existence. Essentially, when creating slots for different Pokemon in the original games, it goes by factors of 2. So you could either have 2 Pokemon, 4 Pokemon, 8 Pokemon, 16, 32, all the way up to where it's 128. But there's 151 Pokemon who need to be programmed, so they have to bump up that 128 to 256 open slots. Now, that's far too many. That's over 100, over 150. So, what Game Freak did, is they put in Missing No, which stands for missing number, as essentially a filler for all of those different slots, those empty slots that weren't being used by actual Pokemon that were intended to be in the game. And that is Missing No. Missing No is not the data from a Cubone that evolves into a Kangaskhan. So that kind of squashes that theory, but it's an interesting theory nevertheless. Moving on to number 5. This one's going to be a pretty quick one, and I can sum it up in literally one sentence. So, because of the breeding mechanics in Generation 3 games, and I don't know about Generation 4 or 5 or 6 or all those games, but at least in Generation 3 games, Skitty and Wailord can breed together. Yes, Skitty, the tiny cat Pokemon, and Wailord, the whale, can breed with each other. What? No, that's so... Oh gosh. That's too weird. Okay. Just okay. Moving on. Number 6. This is an interesting little fluke within Generation 2 games, so Gold, Silver, and Crystal. The Love Ball, a type of Pokeball, was intended to have an 8 times catch rate. So an 8 times multiplier for catching Pokemon of the opposite gender. But the people who coded everything just screwed it up. So instead of that, you have an 8 times catch rate for Pokemon of the same gender. Wait, I mean, how do you screw that up? How do you screw that up? Moving on to number 7, which also just so happens to be about a failed type of Pokeball. So, the Moon Ball was a type of Pokeball that was intended to be used for catching Pokemon who evolve with a Moonstone. So right there, you've already got a pretty crappy Pokeball. The ratio of Pokemon who evolve with a Moonstone versus not evolving with a Moonstone, very, very tiny. Anyway, it was intended to have a 4 times catch rate for all those types of Pokemon. But no, somebody with the coding just screwed it all up, so it's just a 1 times multiplier. It's literally the exact same thing as a Pokemon. So the game just flat out lies to you. Moving on to number 8. This is another theory, which I think it's awesome because there's no immediate disproof of it. So it's not something like the other theory that I went through, where you can just disprove it by looking at the actual code in the game. This is totally up for debate, and it's the theory that you killed one of Gary's Pokemon. You didn't just make it faint, you killed it. So, this stems from when you are in Lavender Town. In the Pokemon Tower, you encounter Gary, and he asks you, I don't know the exact dialogue, but he asks you, what the heck, why are you here if one of your Pokemon hasn't died? Which leads people to believe that he's there because one of his Pokemon died. Not only that, when you battle him, he is missing one of his Pokemon. He's missing a Raticate, which he had with him on the SS Anne, which was the very last time you battled him. So, many people think that you killed his Raticate. How dare you? How dare you? How does it feel being a Pokemon murderer? Huh? How's that feel? You feel good about yourself? You sicken me. Moving on to number 9. This is another stupid fluke in the Generation 1 games. You can see there's a theme here. Old games and flukes with those old games. So, with the Moon Ball, at the very most you could, or at the very worst, you could say that that was just totally neutral. It was a Pokeball, pretty much, like in disguise. With Focus Energy, In Generation 1, however, the move, Focus Energy, which is intended to multiply your critical hit ratio by 4. Not only does it not do anything, which, like, even if it did that, that'd be stupid. It goes farther than not doing anything. It literally hinders you. It divides your chances of getting a critical hit by 4, rather than multiplying it. It divides it by 4. It literally makes you worse off. What? With absolutely no benefit. Not a single benefit. It is only negative. I just found that interesting. I mean, what the heck is that? Moving on to the very last piece of trivia, and it's not even trivia. It is another theory. This is the most interesting theory of the theories I've gone through so far, and it is the theory that Dittos are actually failed attempts at cloning Mew. Now, there are multiple sources of evidence for this. For one, Ditto and Mew are both pink, which isn't that out of the ordinary, so is Jigglypuff. But Ditto and Mew also have the same color when they're shiny, which is a light bluish sort of color. They both weigh 8.8 pounds, which is 4 kilograms. They also both learn Transform naturally at level 0. Also, Ditto is known for incredible versatility when it comes to transforming into other Pokemon. It can transform into literally any other Pokemon, and it can use that Pokemon's moves, so it can essentially learn any move, transform into any Pokemon. Mew also is the only other Pokemon who can learn every single move. So, this is getting closer and closer. It's starting to look better and better. Now, the real clencher for evidence that really solidifies things is that in the games, on Cinnabar Island, in the Pokemon, I believe it's the Pokemon Mansion, yes, that is an abandoned mansion where lots of experiments were done on Mew. There are diary pages that talk about experiments with Mew. And the Pokemon Mansion just so happens to be where you can find Dittos, which is very interesting. So, could Dittos potentially be failed clones of Mew? In my opinion, absolutely. Now, I have heard that there are people who have arguments against that. I haven't seen those yet. It'd be interesting to see those. But for the time being, it's at least interesting to think that the two could be related in that way. So there you have it. Those are just 10 fun facts / trivia, theories, things about Pokemon that I found interesting. I know this video is fairly long, fairly unstructured, because I don't have a script, so this is just all off the top of my head, really. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in another video right here, my dorm room, even though you can't see that I'm in my dorm room. But whatever, that's how I always end my videos. Goodbye.